Hello and welcome back to my channel for a new video. I am so excited about today's video because it is Thanksgiving week, which means I've been prepping all these recipes for you guys for the past couple of weeks, trying to get them perfect, and I'm so excited to finally get to share them with you. I've got a lot packed into this video, so you'll definitely want to go to the description, and I have all these recipes linked on my blog there for you to find. With all that said, let's get into our first recipe, which is this lentil loaf. You're going to start out with 2 carrot sticks, 2 celery sticks, a cup of mushrooms, and half of an onion. Chop everything up into tiny pieces. Then you'll put a pan on medium heat, and I used water for this recipe instead of oil. So I just pour a little bit of water into the bottom of a pan, and once it starts bubbling, I pour in the vegetables. I let those cook for a few minutes and then added in 2 cloves of garlic as well, or also you could use 2 teaspoons of garlic if you have it pre-chopped. So once that all cooks down, you'll set your oven to 350 degrees and then pour 2 cups of lentils into a blender, your vegetables, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, and you'll want to keep the rest of the can for the topping later, half a cup of oats, 3/4 cup of flax meal, and then 2 tablespoons of parsley. I also threw in a little salt and pepper in there and then pushed everything down and blended it up. And you could also use a food processor for this as well. Once that's all combined, you'll pour it out onto some parchment paper on a baking tray and start shaping it together with your hands. You want to try to shape it into a little loaf. It should look a little bit like this when you're done. And after that, you're going to just put it in your oven and cook it for 35 minutes. Once the timer goes off, you'll cover your lentil loaf with the rest of your tomato paste and cook it for 15 more minutes, and then you'll have your finished product. Now we are making some mashed potatoes. So you want to start with getting your potatoes to a boil. I used about 8 medium-sized gold potatoes, and then you let them cook for about 10 minutes once they're boiling until they're fork tender, and then strain them and pour them into a bowl where you're going to add 2 tablespoons of vegan butter. I used Earth Balance, but there are other great brands out there too. Half a cup of unsweetened almond milk. Make sure that it is unflavored and unsweetened, or else you'll have some vanilla mashed potatoes. And then you just want to combine this all with a mixer. You can use a potato masher too, but I find that a mixer just gets it really creamy and really fluffy and breaks up all of the clumps. Then I added 2 tablespoons of chives. You can add more if you want. And then I just added salt and pepper to taste. So mix that all together and then just keep trying it until you've reached your perfect level of saltiness. And that's it for your mashed potatoes. Now with your mashed potatoes, you're going to need some gravy to go with that. So I am going to show you how to make this tahini mushroom gravy, where I added half a cup of tahini, 2 cups of veggie broth, 2 tablespoons of liquid aminos or soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of brown rice flour, and then 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. And you just stir that all together on medium heat. And lastly, you add in some mushrooms. You just let everything cook down and it turns into a nice, thick, creamy gravy sauce. It's super yummy on mashed potatoes or on your lentil loaf or your bread or anything you'd want to put gravy on. Now this next recipe is one of my personal favorite childhood recipes. It is my sweet potato casserole. So you start by cooking your sweet potatoes the same way we cooked our other potatoes, which is by getting them to a boil and letting them simmer for about 10 minutes until they're fork tender. I used about 10 small sweet potatoes for this recipe. Once they are cooked through, you're just going to strain them and pour them back into the same pot, or into an oven-safe pot if you weren't currently using one. So you want to try to mash them up, and I was just using a fork because I couldn't find my potato masher, but obviously using a potato masher would be a lot easier, or you could use a mixer as well. Then I strained a 20-ounce can of crushed pineapple and added that into the mix. Pineapple is our secret ingredient. Half a cup of coconut sugar to sweeten things up. And then 1 cup of walnuts for some hardiness. You can chop these up if you prefer, or just use chopped walnuts. I like having the big pieces. So then I put the oven on 350 and you're going to bake it for about 30 minutes. Take it out and pour some marshmallows on the top. Now make sure that you've got vegan marshmallows because most normal marshmallows have gelatin in them, so you want to make sure to avoid that. But thankfully Trader Joe's has a really good vegan marshmallow. If you can't find it near you, then you can always just opt out of the marshmallows. Then I baked it for 15 more minutes and it was done. If you like your marshmallows to get a little more brown on top, you can leave them in longer or put them on the top rack of your oven. But that's it, super easy and so yummy. Next up, we are making some classic collard greens. So I started out with 1 bunch of collard greens and chopped everything up and then washed it. Then I dumped it into a pot, filled it up with water, put half an onion in there. You don't have to chop it up, just put the whole onion, and 3 cloves of garlic or 3 teaspoons of garlic, and covered it with a lid. You'll want to get it to a boil, and once it's at a boil, you put it on low heat and let it simmer for about an hour. Once the hour has passed, you're just going to take your onion out and strain the rest of your greens, then pour them back into the same pot. Then you'll add a 1/4 cup of Vegenaise, mix it all up together, the juice from a 1/4 of a lemon, a good amount of salt but not too much. Again, taste it to find your desired level of saltiness, and you are all done. You've got your greens ready to go. Now we're back to the sweets with these delicious and super easy to make cranberries. So I took an 8-ounce bag of fresh raw cranberries, poured them into a pot, a 1/4 cup of orange juice, fresh squeezed is the best, make sure that it doesn't have added sugar, 2 tablespoons of coconut sugar, and 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. And I guess you could use all coconut sugar or all maple syrup. I just like having the different flavors of sweetness in there. So I put this on medium heat and just stirred it all together and let it get hot. You'll start to hear your cranberries popping, so don't be scared when that happens. They will eventually start to boil and you will just keep an eye on them, keep stirring them around occasionally, and everything will start to thicken up. About halfway through, 4 to 5 minutes or so, I add a teaspoon of cinnamon and stir that into the mix, and then just let everything keep cooking. You'll see the juice start to turn red and everything start to look more like a jelly, and it takes about 9 to 10 minutes, but then your cranberries are done. So you'll turn the stove off, let them cool down, and just like that, they're ready to eat. Now we're on to our last recipe, which is going to be this yummy pumpkin pie. I started off the crust with a cup of oats, 1/3 cup of almond flour, a 1/3 cup of coconut sugar, and a 1/3 cup of melted coconut oil. Blended that all together and then poured it into my pie pan. And I just tried spreading it out with my fingers. This is a gluten-free crust, so it is a little bit crumbly, especially right when it comes out of the oven. So I suggest putting this pie in the fridge once it's cooled off, and the crust just gets better with time. Now for our pie filling, we are adding 1 whole can of pumpkin puree, 1/2 cup of coconut sugar, 1/4 cup of maple syrup, 1/2 cup of canned coconut milk, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, a teaspoon of vanilla, and a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. And then again with your mixer, you're just going to mix that all up till it's nice and creamy. Then you're going to pour that into your pie shell. Spread it out so it's all nice and even. And your pie is ready to go in the oven. I baked this at 350 for about an hour, and this is how it looked when it came out. To spice it up, I took some coconut whipped cream from the brand So Delicious and poured it into a little Ziploc bag, cut off the tip, and made these little circles around the edges. I'm definitely not a food artist, but this was the best I could do. So that is it for my Thanksgiving recipes. I hope that you guys liked this video and found some of these recipes helpful. Remember, you can go to the description of this video and find all the links to the blog posts that have more detailed information about all of the recipes. So be sure to check that out, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video if you want to see more. Thank you so much as always for watching. It really means a lot to me, and I hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Bye!